Conspiracy theories get kicked around a lot, and there are people who are saying now that the corporate establishment actually wanted Trump to win. I have a few thoughts. This election of Trump kind of throws a wrench into the idea that we live in an oligarchy. It is true that there are a very few rich elite at the top who control the outcome of the vast majority of elections. However, the oligarchs hate Trump and did everything they could to beat him and failed. How did the very wealthy and powerful get beaten? Just because he is going to be guilty of similar corporate crap as our current administration and the one before it, and the one before that, and the one before that, doesn't negate the fact that people in power lost. Yes, they actually hate Trump. That's why the Kochs didn't back him for president, the first Republican nominee to get that treatment in their lives. And the entire Republican establishment endorsed Hillary. She got all the corporate money, and none of it mattered. Will Trump end up working with those same corporate interests? Probably. Does that mean that their first choice won? Absolutely not. He is too much of a wild card. He's unpredictable. Corporations like neat, orderly servants like Hillary. Trump has too large an ego to be controlled effectively. He is president-elect, and many Republicans are still not getting on board. His cabinet choices thus far are strange political outsiders. He has already backed out of his crazy campaign promises. There is really no telling what he'll do, and that terrifies the establishment because it affects their money. I'm not saying that he's good. His picks are crazy picks. But that's the point. He is making crazy picks, and there's nobody that can tell him no. He isn't listening to conventional wisdom at all. It's chaos. I'm not talking about the future. I think the future could get really ugly, or could be not nearly as bad as we are imagining. I'm talking about the past. In the past, Trump won, and the establishment freaked out, and is continuing to freak out. Members of the media still look shell-shocked. It's really nice to see that. If there's one thing a Trump presidency will be good for, it should be to wake up the media. They work for Washington and their donors, and now that Washington is in complete disarray, the media is realizing that they might have benefited from actually doing their jobs instead of being corporate shills. I don't think Trump will be the shakeup that Washington needs with his policies. I'm not even sure he has specific policies. It isn't what he's going to do. I'm saying that what already happened shook the establishment to its core. A guy they didn't want gamed the system and beat them. And it's going to happen again. The establishment and corporate interests obviously monetarily benefit from globalization. Being able to exploit labor in poor areas of the world is the main goal. Trump publicly opposed that, while actually outsourcing his own labor, and ran on a platform of anti-free trade to bring jobs back to America. Brexit, the rise of right-wing nationalism in Europe, and Trump's election are a populist backlash against corporate abuses that have been taking place for decades. Hillary was the corporate dream. Why on earth would the oligarchs want to upset the system that was working for them so well by somehow secretly wanting Trump to get elected when Hillary, their little puppet, was right there? Follow the money. Hillary is good for corporate money, and Trump was running on a platform of anti-corporate money. He isn't actually anti-corporate money. He is corporate money. But obviously, people all over the Western world are rejecting the corporate oligarchy. They just happen to be turning towards right-wing nationalism because they are poor and poverty breeds nationalism. Trump will end up working for corporate interests because his advisors are corporatists, and he has been a corporate Democrat his whole life. That is a happy accident for the establishment. The fact that this was not certain to happen is why the establishment fought so hard against him. The establishment is getting lucky with Trump, but had he wanted to, he could have been anti-corporate like his campaign rhetoric. He was unpredictable. Another thing that bothers me about this whole line of thinking is that the left will blame everything but themselves for what's going on. Corporate conspiracy, racism, misogyny, voter laws, Bernie supporters, third parties. But the fact is, right-wing nationalist movements are rising all across the Western world. Many people on the left think that nationalist movements are primarily racist movements. That is just dead wrong. Racism gets caught up in nationalist movements because nationalism is by definition exclusionary, and nationalist rhetoric and racist rhetoric are compatible. But the real issue is economy. Nationalism can't exist in a time of plenty. Economic downturns cause strife. Strife causes anger, and anger needs an outlet. The West has been moving towards globalizing, and the world economy is failing. People are poor and unemployed and angry, and they're looking to lash out at the establishment. That is a recipe for nationalism. Are Europeans and Americans suddenly becoming racist again? No. They are becoming poor again, and they are pissed about it. And every time somebody talks about racism being the root cause of the rise of the right, and how these right-wingers are all racist and misogynists, it pisses people off more because they are shouting about how bad things are for them, and people are ignoring that and calling poor people bigoted instead. It is astonishing how badly people are missing the point of what's going on. The right is not a group of racists. There are racists among them. They are a group of justifiably angry people. And anger attracts racists on the fringe, just as the angry on the left occasionally attract people who hate whites.